All right, get it together, man. Get. What are you?
Oh my God.
Kurt.
Hey there, Crosscut Cinema fans. We're back with another Quentin. We're in quarantine with Quentin Tarantino.
Could
you imagine?
Tortellini. We're back.
Can you imagine being in quarantined with Quentin Tarantino?
I would literally kill myself.
No, you wouldn't. You'd be so excited. You'd be like, tell me about movies, but just don't look at me.
like, tell me about movies, but like,
Put this bag on your head.
yeah. It's his face that gets me.
You'd have to wear socks all the time. You could never be barefoot in the comfort of your home.
I would have
He's always
shoes.
lurking.
I would wear shoes to bed.
The chance of Quentin Tarantino looking at your feet is low, but never zero.
Ugh. Like,
Oh
Here.
no.
Death Proof has a lot of feet.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, they all have a lot of feet, but Death Proof feels especially foot heavy.
But before
But
we
I
get
mean,
into that, who are we?
Well, we're
Crosscut
Crosscut Cinema.
Cinema.
Yeah. I'm Frani.
I'm Madison.
I'm Brie.
Yeah. Are you gonna?
Logan.
Okay.
You know, somebody.
You're just double checking.
Somebody.
You had to rifle through your wallet, find
Yeah, I
your
had to go
ID.
through all my different personalities and figure out which one was here today.
Oh my god.
Last week, somebody in the comments called me Granny.
Granny.
I think that's close enough.
It
It's
wasn't
fine.
like last week, but it was like
It was like a
filming
couple weeks
this.
ago. Yeah.
Filming
It
this.
was last week now, but when you're hearing it, it wasn't.
It was like
Yeah.
2 weeks ago. And so yeah. She's Granny.
We review movies in full spoiler reviews. This is part of a bigger series for Quentin Quarantine. You can find other
Quentin
episodes. we did.
Quarantino.
Quentin Quarantino.
You have to add the O on the end to make it spicy.
We have a playlist on our YouTube of other Quentin Tarantino videos we've done.
We're working our way through. We're like, we're getting to a turning point now. It's like
Yeah.
almost halfway, I guess.
Yeah.
We're done.
I think we're over halfway, aren't we?
Wouldn't we be?
I
I don't know.
It
I've
depends on
lost
if you
track.
count Kill Bill as 2 films or 1. If not, we're exactly halfway.
That's true. Okay.
I have a great story about this movie. So originally, this film actually came out with another film as part of a Grindhouse release. The other film was directed by Robert Rodriguez. It was called Planet Terror.
It's a great movie. To watch that one too.
So here's the thing. In my old little town of LaPorte, they had this as a midnight release every weekend for a couple of weekends, and I went with my friends constantly. We saw both of these features multiple times every weekend, and if you know anything about midnight releases, it's all about being insane because you're out somewhere at midnight.
Right.
For instance, we used to get stopped at the door with anything we tried to sneak in, like booze and stuff. One dude managed to sneak an entire raft into the theater. We were throwing around a inflatable raft in the audience.
Oh my god.
There's tons of great memories I have with these movies. But just so you guys know, we're not actually reviewing the Grindhouse version. We're reviewing the extended unrated version where it's the entire film by itself, no additions of Planet Terror. So there's extra stuff in the movie that we watched that is not in the Grindhouse version. So if you hear us talking about a scene that doesn't seem to make any sense, it's because it's only in the unrated extended.
Wait, so what's different in the...
Tons of it.
Because like now I don't know what we watched because I watched my DVD copy of Death Proof.
It probably, if it was it by itself?
Yeah.
Then it was the Tarantino
Oh, okay.
version.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
The Grindhouse version only exists in addition to the first film, Planet Terror, which you should watch. It's actually a lot of fun. Maybe one day we'll review it.
Yeah,
I
I
think
really like
Madison was
Planet Terror.
talking about it when
I
we
don't
watched
own it, unfortunately, but I do like it a lot.
Mm-hmm. The Grindhouse stuff, I mean, it ultimately... There were so much cool things about this film that was a gimmick in the beginning where they were like, let's put out those old kind of style films from like the 70s and 60s and shit where it was like, or 70s and 80s and shit where it was like really cheap movies split together, old film reused, like very grungy, grindhousey. And that is some of the best stuff about the movie. But one thing that people always forget that's really awesome is that there were fake trailers at the beginning of this film.
Yeah.
And a lot of these trailers turned into real films. For instance, there was a half teaser for a movie called Baby Driver that eventually was actually made. There was a movie for Hobo with a Shotgun made by 2 dudes in Nova Scotia that won a contest to run their trailer during Grindhouse in only Canada. and that became a feature film that is incredible and
Yeah,
grungy.
it's
That's
so
a real
good.
movie now because
so
the trailer
good.
was so popular. Also, the classic Danny Trejo film started Machete was one of the
Yes.
trailers, and now that's a 2-part series that is absolutely fucking bloody
Is it only
disgusting.
2 parts? I feel like it's more than 2.
I don't. If there is more, it's not Robert Rodriguez.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if there's more.
I'm with you. Got you.
But the first 2 were Robert Rodriguez, and they're both films. Objects that happened in each of those films happened completely in the trailer. Like there was something that happened in 2 that happened in the trailer, something that happened in 1 that happened in the trailer. So that's why I say that. And like it's a really cool concept for. You know, I think Tarantino, as much as Rodriguez is like a great director, I think Tarantino's name being attached to this gave it a lot of credibility. And it was kind of a success as a result. Not completely, but especially when it went to home video, it definitely made a lot of money. What did you guys think of it? Because we already know where I'm going. So let's go with the positive first.
I love this movie. I think Death Proof is so good. I mean, I'm not saying it's a perfect movie. Not gonna say that. There are things that I dislike vehemently about it, but I love it a lot. It's just like a fun movie to watch. It's just fun to watch it, and I love Kurt Russell's character.
Mm-hmm.
I love Kurt Russell. You may know that if you've listened to our episodes before. I love Kurt Russell more than anything. I think he's amazing.
It reminded me of why I'm scared of Ferris wheels when they have those little pods that you're in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it reminded me of why I fucking will not get in one of those. Like, just the idea
Just like
of...
because of the car?
Yeah, the car.
And that's the other thing that I love about this movie. I love that like long, like 15-minute long car chase.
Oh my God.
It's my favorite thing.
This movie was so fucking cool.
And I mean, I love that like grungy 70s exploitation feel.
Yeah,
like I love
me
those kind of
too.
movies. So I love this movie. And I think I've probably said this before, but like Quentin Tarantino makes exploitation movies. That's kind of what he does.
Yeah.
And so this is him like really doing that full to form. Like in the same way in like Jackie Brown, like he's like fully setting out, I'm going to make a blaxploitation movie. When he makes Death Proof, he fully sets out like I'm making a grindhouse film.
Disagree entirely.
Really?
So my opinion is that this is the worst Tarantino movie, and I'll tell you why.
It really, really isn't.
Oh, let me
It's
finish.
such a good
I let you
fucking
speak your truth on it. Now it's
Okay,
my turn.
all right, go ahead.
In all of his movies, he's really intricate in the way that he shows homage to films that he enjoys, but still elevates them. This movie is not that. He is bogged down by the concept of making a grindhouse because he literally, especially at the beginning of the film, he feels it's so necessary to make the characters kind of loose and empty and grindhousey to the point where he decides that he doesn't need to elevate the film. It just needs to exist and feel like a 70s grunge film. Like, it feels like it's from the 70s. That's true. It feels like a pointless like grunge film, like grindhouse film, but it shouldn't be. It's Tarantino. I should expect more out of the film, especially with how bad the characters in the beginning are, how bad the dialogue is in the beginning. And then the issue is everybody talks about how great the second part of the film is, but that almost is completely where he leaves behind the whole grindhouse concept. It just turns into a Tarantino film at that point with slightly different
How
editing.
does he leave behind the grindhouse
Because
concept?
the beginning of the film, there's tons of things like as far as like the characters go and the way they act like kind of pointless, baseless characters. Mm-hmm. And that's the whole drive is that you're in this it feels like you're watching a movie from the 70s, like some sort of bad grindhouse movie where there's a guy with a killer car. That's the whole beginning concept of this film. The second half of this film feels like a Tarantino movie. The dialogue's smarter, quippier, faster. The characters are more
I like
honest.
how they reincorporate like the old dialogue into the second part too. Like have the girl say like the exact same thing almost.
Yeah, I like that as well.
But the difference is that these characters are characters.
Yeah, I know, and I like that. I think that's fun.
And people want to talk about like how it's so shocking that he kills off these first round of girls, right? But I posit that if we would have spent any more time with these boring ass people, we would have been easily fucking bored because they weren't real characters.
Yeah.
Like they were nothing. Like even okay, Butterfly was the closest thing to a character in the first part of the film.
I thought Jungle Julia was a
Nothing.
character.
No character.
I thought she was
What's her character? That she's sassy and on the radio? What is her character?
Like, I thought that she...
See?
Sassy and on the radio.
Sassy and on the radio. That's all she is.
I think she cares about her friend.
No, she doesn't. She cares about making a spectacle of herself because she's sassy and on the radio.
No, but she's like very sweet with Butterfly.
No, she's not.
End.
They shit
Towards
on
the
each
end.
other. They shit on each other in the car. Remember when they're on their way there, almost pointlessly.
That's just how people are.
No, they're not. No real people are like that. They're
We definitely
empty.
shit on each other.
No, but they're
constantly.
empty. Everything's empty. If you were to tell me that they met that day, I'd believe you.
I mean, like, they are kind of empty characters, but I think they're supposed to be.
No, but that's the problem is I don't want to watch a movie with empty characters. I want the characters to actually be characters. That's what
When
makes
you're
the bad
watching
movie bad.
When you're watching a Grindhouse
But that's
movie,
my point is we're supposed to look at this like it's a great Tarantino film. It's a grindhouse film, and it's not any better than anything he's ever made. It's not a bad movie. It's bad for Tarantino, who elevates all of his art and makes it something more than a samurai movie or a spaghetti western. He elevates it. He feels like he's almost trapped by keeping that gimmick going. And also, it has some of the worst acting I've ever fucking seen.
But I think that again, like,
No.
lends itself to the genre.
But that's the problem, is that it doesn't, because it doesn't elevate the film. It's just a bad grindhouse movie. The facts come that grindhouse movies are fun, but they're not great film. That's why this makes it his worst movie, because it's not a great film.
I don't know. I feel like there are definite merits to Grindhouse film that are great films.
No, that by definition, they're fun, campy films. They're not meant to be great. They're meant to be campy.
I mean, but define great though? Because great.
Fine. Is this at an artistic level of the rest of Tarantino's movies? No.
I would say yeah.
How?
I would say that it fits decently into the canon of the rest of his movies that
He
he's
doesn't
made.
elevate this film whatsoever. Nothing is different than a regular grindhouse movie, unless if you want to count the second act. But even then, it's nothing special. Zoe Bell is a horrible actress, and he made this movie to hate fuck Uma Thurman, because Uma Thurman didn't want to do her own stunts. He said, "You know what? I'm not going to make my next movie with you. I'm going to make my next movie with your stunt double."
Yeah.
That's shitty,
I mean,
and she's
that is
terrible.
fucked up.
She's a terrible fucking actress.
I mean, yes, that's definitely shitty. He
and
shouldn't
Quentin
have done that,
is even fucking worse in this movie.
Oh yeah, he's horrible.
He's terrible in it. You're right.
And the characters in the beginning. So we have.
I hate how much of Quentin you get in this movie.
Yeah.
You get
We have the
far too much.
shitty. We have the shitty acting from Quentin. We have the shitty characters from everybody else, except for maybe Butterfly, who has a bit of a character to her, but is bogged down by how much he wants to turn her into like a dramatic slut. Like he just wants to make her dramatic and over the top for no reason. When I actually was on her side for a lot of things she did, until she felt the need to give Kurt Russell a striptease, which is actually not in the Grindhouse cut of the film, by the way.
Yeah.
And that for me is a huge issue. And then the other thing is this movie is frolicking around like it's this low budget Grindhouse movie, but it costs like $30 million to make.
Yeah, that's a lot of money, but
If you're going to spend that much money on the movie, give me some production value, because there could have been more production value in making it look like a Grindhouse film, but he didn't even do that. It's incredibly lazy. And the only reason this movie really exists is, for one, so he can homage Grindhouse films, and two, so he can have a real car chase scene that is as dangerous as he wanted Kill Bill Volume 2 to be.
yeah.
That's not good enough to be a movie for me.
I mean, I think that I would argue that this movie fits in with the other work that he does and how he
It's the worst
pays
one,
homage
though.
to exploitation
But
genres.
it's the worst one.
And I mean, I think that like saying like an exploitation movie can't be a great film.
No,
I
that's
think
not what I said. I said he didn't elevate it, because he didn't.
Well, no, I know, but you're saying like you said exploitation movies are not great films.
No,
by
I didn't.
Definition.
I said Grindhouse films aren't. That's not the only form
Okay,
of
well,
exploitative
you said
film.
Grindhouse films are not great by definition.
Of what they are, meaning they're cheap, low-budget movies that are supposed to be shock value and fun. In determining what great cinema is, that is a great thing you can watch. That is a fun thing you can watch. But it doesn't come anywhere near the other things he has created. A Grindhouse movie can't be as good as a full Tarantino movie, because a Grindhouse movie has to be more than just Grindhouse for it to be as good as other Tarantino films.
I would disagree. I don't think a Grindhouse movie can't be a great movie.
It's not what
And
I'm
I
saying.
think-
You're changing what I'm saying again.
No,
I'm
you
saying
just said
it can't
that.
be as great as a Tarantino film. It doesn't elevate the genre enough to be as great as those.
So you're saying any Grindhouse movie not by Quentin Tarantino can't be a great?
Not
as
one
great
that's
as-
not one that's solidarily just a Grindhouse movie, because of what Grindhouse actually is. It's supposed to be low budget. It's intentionally bad.
But I don't think that means that it can't be a great film.
I didn't say it can't be a great film. I said it can't be as great as a Tarantino film.
And I don't even think that's true.
It is true, because nothing's elevated. Everything is conventional. It's made to be conventional. It's made to be not as good. It's supposed to be bad. That is the goals of the film.
Yes, but that doesn't mean that it's not great.
No, that actually does by definition mean it's not as great as a Tarantino movie.
I don't agree with that.
He's saying like it just can't hit the same tier.
It cannot be in the same elevation
Yeah.
because they're not. Nothing's changing
Like-
about the genre.
like you almost can't-
If you watch a Grindhouse movie, a real Grindhouse movie, not Death Proof because it's kind of a weird amalgamation.
Like it's got to be on a separate grading scale almost.
No Grindhouse movie is at all like we're in like a 10% differentiation between one Grindhouse movie to another. They're all the same kind of idea. They're meant to be midnight showings where people have fun, they get drunk, they watch like a fun movie that has little to no character consequence because the characters are supposed to be empty. So a Grindhouse film is that's what it conceptually is. It's meant to be bad. So when he chooses to homage a Grindhouse film and he doesn't elevate it, he's essentially making something that is exactly what it's supposed to be, but isn't anything better than what he's made before.
But
in
but
fact,
here's-
quite possibly the worst.
But here's what I would say. I would say that just because a Grindhouse film is meant to be bad doesn't mean that there's not artistry to it. And like, I don't think you agree with that, but that's fine. But like, I think that like, and I don't think you can say like, okay, a Grindhouse film cannot be on the same level because I don't think that just because it's not like high art of cinema that it can't be
I didn't
at
say
a level
it
of
couldn't be.
greatness.
I didn't say it couldn't be great. I said it can't be as great as other films.
Yeah, and I know, and I don't think that's true.
But I think it is because what you get from a Tarantino film is you get great characters, a great storyline, and great atmosphere. What you get from this is entirely atmosphere. It's entirely editing. It's entirely the way the movie looks.
But I don't
we
think
we spend almost an hour with these first characters, and they mean nothing. They mean nothing when they die to you, or at least to me, because I was not convinced that these characters were worth any time, because I got nothing from them. The only bit of the character development I got was from the Rose McEwen. How do you pronounce it? Rose McEwen? Is that
Rose McGowan.
Rose McGowan. That's the only character I got some development out of, and that character sucked. Like I hated that character. She was jealous and a little racist, and that's all I got. And then Stuntman Mike, of course, is the best part of the beginning because he's an interesting character. That's it.
But what I'm saying is I don't think that any of that means that it can't be as good as any of his other
But
work.
what makes it a good movie then? What's the part that's good?
I think all of it's the part that's good.
That's my point. You don't have a real actual.
But no, I mean, I have like things that I specifically like about it. I think that this movie is good because it is what it is, and like it is what it tries to be. And I think, and I would still argue that he does elevate it with the technique and with the editing and with the atmosphere.
The editing and the atmosphere are what makes it almost Grindhouse in itself. And yeah, like it just feels a little over the top to me at times, where it's like he's trying so hard to make it look old with like the stitchings and like the film and everything, and that's cool aesthetically. But if you're gonna do that much and you're gonna tell me you're elevating the genre, you have to actually elevate something. I have to feel like I care about characters, especially when the convincingness of this film is halfway through, you don't see it coming, but the main characters die. I kind of saw it coming because they were fucking pointless. I was like, I can't wait for these people to die, and they did. But my argument is that that's bad characters. Like, he wrote bad characters, and it was a large part of the film. It wasn't like a quick opening. This was a large part of the film where we're with all these characters that you don't give a fuck about.
But I would disagree though, because I think that him making those characters kind of empty is him being true to the Grindhouse form. And then I think that
but then by your own argument, by the end of the film, he's no longer sticking to that and he's doing something completely different.
So do you want him to do something different and elevate it, or no?
It didn't elevate it though, because it was tonally different. It didn't work with the rest of the film. It felt like two different movies.
I don't think it was tonally different.
I absolutely believe it was tonally different.
I would like to hear some other perspectives. How did you guys feel about it?
I felt
Well, I think we should.
I know. I already said you guys can say what you want to say about it.
You're monopolizing our conversation, friend.
All right, I'll stay quiet.
I'm just being silly.
No, we're on. We already all know, so we'll all be quiet.
I'm just fucking around. Okay, get pissed. Whatever.
I'm not pissed.
Okay, that's fine.
Why do you think
So-
just because I return with you guys can say what you want, you think I'm pissed?
Yeah, you are.
No, I'm not pissed. I
was just kidding.
So am I. I'm just joking around.
All right, whatever. Anyway, sorry guys.
You always go to that. Whenever I like walk away in like a joking way, you're like, "Don't be pissed." I'm not pissed.
Okay.
All right.
I like this movie.
I also like this movie. I think that it's there are a lot of things that it says, which, I mean, so I got from this movie is, especially, again, this is a spoiler podcast, so
Yeah,
we're gonna
yeah,
be
yeah.
I'm pretty sure we
spoiling,
spoiled the fuck
obviously.
out of it already.
I didn't know I couldn't remember us saying that for this one at all.
Yeah, no, we said
definitely
that all at
did,
the
so
top.
you're good.
You know,
We also had already spoiled it by this point, so they're fucked anyway.
right? Whatever.
You're covered.
So like, when at the very end, when all of the women get out of the car and they
Yeah.
just beat the loving shit out of him, and he, you know, like he gets what he deserves.
Yeah.
What I took away from that is, when you're somebody who is hurt by someone else and you stand up and you fight back, like you are not just fighting back for yourself, but like for the other people that
Yeah.
they have hurt.
Yeah, it's got a good message.
And-
with that.
Like,
Disagree.
I mean,
I'm just saying.
you can disagree. That's
I know.
just my take.
You want to know why they feel differently about it?
I want to finish.
She was gonna say
Hell
no.
no. I don't.
That's my girl.
I
I
just
feel
playing.
I feel like this is Quinn's silent admission to a form of impotence and sexual desire, and it's really gross.
mean, I see that.
Logan talked about this with me, and like I definitely see that.
I just wasn't done with my analysis.
Sorry, what were you gonna
Hey,
say?
we're all allowed to interrupt each other to talk here, okay?
I mean, that's fair. That's why I was gonna say no, because
I
I'm
wanted
like,
to say it now, so I got the chance before
I mean-
we moved on.
that's fair.
Go ahead.
But I mean, like, I feel like it's important, sort of like a message. The message that I got, anyway, is important because, like, especially with victims, like, maybe that's just like what I always view things through.
No, I
lens
think you
of-
can definitely see that message from this movie.
Like,
I see both being, and I think one was unintentional and one was intentional. I think Bridget's seeing the message that they wanted to give, and Logan seeing like the message that he might not have wanted to give, but was very clearly there.
I honestly think it's both. Like,
Yeah.
I think that this is a movie. Am I cutting you off?
No.
Okay. Sorry.
Also, it's a podcast.
Yeah, we're
Well-
supposed to cut each other off. And
Well,
talk
yeah, I
about
know, but
things.
I know she was like having like she had like something, so I didn't want to like interrupt it before she
Yeah,
got to
and
finish
change
it.
the conversation. I
Yeah,
get
I
that.
didn't want to misdirect that conversation,
Yeah.
but like yeah, I think it's kind of both. I think this movie says a lot about Quentin himself.
Yeah.
And I think you're right in that regard, but I also think that like I don't know, I almost see like those themes of like, you know, when they get to kick the shit out of him, it's like a very cathartic moment, like
It is.
that I'm
It's
sure every
so
woman
fucking-
wishes that she could have. And
Yeah.
so like
So-
when that happens, that's kind of almost when I feel like the genre is elevated.
So I feel like
Yeah, you don't see that a lot.
I think his messaging is a little perverse and kind of like fucked up in this movie, because what he also was saying was with the first group of girls, because they were, I guess, promiscuous through some realm, that their deaths were not important enough for the police to follow up with what had happened.
I mean, I think
They died pretty aggressively and nothing was done about it, right? And then the only reason these characters at the end of the film is because they were like hard asses and fucking badass, and they were willing to
But
do
I
this
think
crazy
they were
stuff.
still promiscuous though.
What do you
I
mean?
think that
How were
the-
they?
Well, I mean, they talk about their sexual exploits throughout the movie.
Yeah, but my point is,
I
they
mean, the
weren't-
one girl is a known boyfriend stealer.
Yeah, I know, but
and the other one is they're talking about fucking The Rock, and I mean, he's not The Rock,
but it's just kind of like these characters, for one, are kind of terrible. Like even though they're better than the first group of characters.
I mean, I agree
Like
with you.
the leaving of the one character to
that
essentially
is the
be,
thing I hate
Yeah,
about
and
the
then
movie.
that's-
the audible
that's
gulp.
my-
This movie is disgustingly sexually perverse.
That one.
He's really
was
gross,
my-
actually, and that's why it's so like the ending to me made it up so much for so many people. But that almost feels like it's a placeholder of like, you can't get mad at me for being a pervert because I had the girls kill him at the end. I'm sorry, but the whole rest of the movie you were fucking disgusting, Quentin.
I think that
Especially the black and white scene that he shot just to have in his own home release that he thought of after the event of the film. The whole black and white scene where they're at the gas station, he licks her feet and shit. He added that because he felt it added something. Why? That whole scene was fucking pointless because you already see him, especially in the Grindhouse cut, see those women. He added that just to be disgusting. And sure,
Yeah.
you want to
I mean,
add
that
that
is
to
fucked up.
how fucked up stuntman Mike is, but we already knew that. So all he's adding is something gross for us to look at and feel awkward by.
So
And
coming,
the same thing goes with the grindhouse cut where the girl gets left behind. That's something he added. It wasn't like that in the
That's
original.
fucked.
They just took off with the car.
Who gets
So-
left behind in that cut?
The cheerleading actress gets left behind in the cut that we watched. She didn't
Gotcha.
before. Or she did, but it wasn't like the whole scene where she goes gulp and they talk about how she's a porno actress. That's stuff that he added, and it was gross.
and that's like really fucked up, honestly. And
That's why the whole message of the film bullshit does not resonate with me, because I feel like he gave way more of an opposite message throughout a majority of the film. And also the mere creation of the film to be like a hate fuck to Uma Thurman itself alone is a big fucking problem.
And that is also fucked up.
Yeah, I mean, I
But-
think like that. Sorry, go ahead, Bridget. I need a minute to formulate.
So like how I get, so my feeling, I'm not defending this to the end because there are a lot of disgusting things that happen, and that this is really fucking disgusting. The reason that he, part of the reason he did this was he, was hate fucking Uma Thurman.
And then let me say one other thing first, just real quick. Planet Terror, which was the film attached to it, did not have these problems. So it's not a grindhouse issue. Go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, that's fair. But like, I feel like the women having been killed off at the beginning, and then he's just like, I'm not gonna investigate, and then later on the characters taking it into their own hands. I feel like, for me, and again, I think I quite often view media through the lens of my own trauma. But I feel like that's sort of like they got the justice for these women.
I feel like
fucked up.
I feel like this movie tries to disguise itself, or like kind of gets seen through the eyes of feminism when it's actually not a feminist movie whatsoever. Like kind of like the way you're viewing it, Bridget, and like the way a lot of people view it is like it's about women empowerment and stuff when it's not. It's about Quentin's fucked up mentality.
And then here's my other thing with it is...
It's a peek behind the curtains of his scary mental.
Well, here's my other thing about it, is that you can change that one element of the film and it completely changes the idea.
Yeah.
But if you change one element of his perverse actions, the film is still the same message.
Right, and
Like,
I'm not...
It almost feels like he could have written just a slightly different ending. And I get that that's usually how the end, like the meanings of films come together and change.
I
But
feel like
fact
the
that he can
ending was
change
an
only-
afterthought.
He can change. No, I don't think it was. He can change only one thing and completely change the message of the film, as far as like making it feminist to not. But he cannot take away the perverse misogyny that's in the film by taking away one thing.
Yeah.
Because the
Yeah,
whole
no, I
film
mean-
is riddled with it.
And
I don't feel that climax was to disregard everything else. And if it was, then it was almost like him sneaking a message of how he really felt into a film that was not at all what it was about.
And I
mean, I
completely
think-
see what you're saying. I think that it's very important to not disregard, how he treats women and why he made this movie. I just think that the ending was particularly satisfying to me because it had that overtone. And that's, like, I felt vindicated in that moment. But, like, there are a lot of fucked up things, and I don't think this is, like... I enjoyed watching it, and I think that it was a fun time.
Yeah, I think this
but
movie
I don't think
is a good like thing to kind of mentally think about how if you can separate the art from the artist as a person.
and that's such a hard question.
Yeah.
Especially like just every day, like you learn something new about a
'cause-
celebrity and you're like, fuck.
Well, and here's the thing. We're talking a lot about Quentin, but everything's speculative. There's
Yeah.
nothing... I want to
Right.
say that. I know
Yeah.
that I'm on the side of saying this movie's gross, but I also want to point out the fact that he's not been accused,
No.
or at least not confirmed of any sort of crime like that.
No.
So let's get that out of the way before
We're
we
just
completely...
speculating.
But
Yeah.
I just feel like the movie itself, as fun as it is, because it is fucking fun. Anybody who says it's not fun to watch is full of shit. It's a lot of fun, especially the last 15 minutes is fucking awesome. But it's not an elevated piece for me. It feels like what it's supposed to be, but nothing more, nothing less. It's just very blank slate exploitation film, like we talked about, with no, to me, no elevation, because it's not like the characters were particularly amazing on either sides of the film. It's not like the events were especially insane, because by the time that we see them not die from him, we know, like you have to know that these women are going to go fuck him up. It's just the vibe you already were getting with the moment she shot him in the arm. You know what's going to happen, especially in the earlier scene where she's talking about how, you know what happens with people who carry knives? They get shot, like stuff like, you know that they're going to be that way. You know that Zoe is actually the character who's death proof. It's not the car, but Zoe herself is the death proof character in the film. You get all of this before we ever get there. So there's not anything insanely shocking. I get a little annoyed when people talk about how this really subverted their expectations. Because if you really thought after he just killed all those girls the first part of the movie that he's going to go do the exact same thing and the movie's going to end, you're not thinking.
I think, like, for me, this movie does kind of, and I said at the top, like, there are things that I really dislike about this movie, and definitely, like, the scene of them leaving her behind is one of them. That black and white scene is one of them. Even though it's like, it's like a well shot scene. It's still icky. It doesn't need to be there.
It feels like it's him trying to explain something about himself. This movie, as distant and like genres as it feels, in some scenes it feels like he's trying to admit something to people. Yeah, and now that we know the stuff about the feet thing, it's a really disgusting picture.
And I mean, like it epitomizes my like love-hate relationship with Quentin, because I mean, there's a lot that I like about this movie, and I do think that this movie, like, I know we keep coming back to this, but I do think it like kind of elevates that grindhouse genre when they get to have their moment of taking that power back, because these genres are exploitation genres for a reason. And I mean, you know, women get exploited in them, and I mean, and even in this film they do.
Yeah.
And so, like, to some extent, I can allow for it because of what the film is trying to do, but then in other aspects I don't. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't allow for them leaving her behind, and I don't care to allow for that weird fucking black and white sequence. And like, but like ultimately I like the way that this film ends. I actually really like the group of characters from the end.
They're better. They're way better than the first group.
I also really like the acting.
So here's
for Rosero.
Rosero's okay.
I like Rosero.
All right, here's the thing. Actually, let me point this out. What's the best thing about a Tarantino film? Like, for you guys?
I mean, I would say for me, the dialogue.
Yeah, I think
that
is
the worst.
Good dialogue.
This movie has the worst dialogue he's ever written.
I think it has good dialogue.
I didn't say it didn't have good dialogue. I said it's the worst he's written. He's Quentin Tarantino. He's the king of dialogue, but this movie has the worst dialogue.
I also like the girl with the gun.
I really like their like diner scene.
What's like a great scene? Like cause we can like quote other Tarantino films. What's the great scene for you as far as dialogue goes in this film?
For me, it's the diner scene for one.
Where she was like, you know, you're about
what were some of the
cat.
things they said other than the gun thing I just said?
Yeah, I mean, when she said, I want to do, like, again with the whole gun conversation, because that's what the conversation was.
Well, there was more to it than that.
Yeah, I mean, but she was like when she was talking about, like, I want to do laundry any goddamn time I please.
But that's
I like
a part
that
of the
scene
same scene I'm talking about. Let's
And
go with
also-
Okay, so you want a different scene?
Or it could be the same scene, but a different line of thought. Like, there was more than just the gun.
Where
in that
she talks
particular
about
scene.
Zoe being a cat, like, and how she was like, I'm going to break my, I would have braided my
terrible.
neck.
That's terrible
I
dialogue.
thought it was fun.
She's a cat. She's lived somehow. Like, it's just so, this is what's going to happen later in the movie.
I also love their scene when she's trying to convince her to do the stunt with them.
It's terrible.
I think it's fun.
Because for one, Zoe's a terrible actress. And two,
I mean, she's not great.
And two, they're so over the top. You want to do that again? Blah, 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 blah.
It's supposed to be over the top.
But it's not good. It's not well written. Nothing's clever about it because it's just to purpose the rest of the film. It's just to let us engage in something else. Tarantino has full long dialogues where what you get is introspective thoughts on the characters without it being directly related to the plot. And that's what makes it so believable. That's what his characters make him feel so real. That's when they're having conversations about something that isn't necessarily involved with the film, but because they're having this conversation, you get a feel for who they are. That scene does not happen in this film.
I also really like, pointing to that, what you just said, I really actually like the scene where Rose McGowan's character is talking to Stuntman Mike. Because I feel like that's
I like
a
that
scene.
only because of Stuntman Mike.
But I feel like that's a scene where they're not talking about, like, I am a Stuntman Mike and I kill women with my car, but you get to learn a lot about him.
That is cut from the original Grindhouse version, by the way. I don't know if that's relevant or not, but I just want to let you know that scene's not really in there as far as like as long as it is.
Yeah, but like that's a scene that I really like. I also just really like the scene where they're in the car when he tells her that it's 100% death proof, but only on his side.
And that is yet again that's leading to a plot point of the film. There is no.
Well, no, I know. I just love that scene though.
There's no believable candor between characters. There's no like, for instance, you're talking about the boyfriend stealing scene.
Yeah.
That is like the scene he's trying to make where he's like, these are who the characters are. But it sucks. I mean,
I don't know. I feel like it tells you a good amount.
It really sucks. And the whole point of their conversations are talking about dicks. Really, the strong female characters in the film, we're going to spend fucking 15 minutes talking about dicks, and that's the only conversation they have that's not relevant to the plot?
Does it?
Get
Does
the
it
fuck out
pass?
of here.
True. Their diner scene is not plot relevant.
Does
The
it pass the
diner scene is
Bechdel
plot
test?
Yeah,
relevant.
that's what I'm trying to ask.
I mean,
Yes,
it
I think
incorporates.
I think it passes the
incorporate-
Bechdel test. Yeah,
Just barely.
because they talk about the car. They talk about like the magazine that she's in, the one actress.
yeah.
They talk about a lot of things that are not just.
Yeah, like the
guys.
scene where she's talking about like how much that car means to her and stuff. Like I like that. I like
And,
those
like,
scenes.
But yet again, it's building
The-
toward a later scene. It's not like, I'm not saying they should have pointless dialogue, but I am saying that that's one of Tarantino's strengths is he makes characters feel real by them having everyday conversations, by them speaking like real people.
But
they're
I-
speaking about the car like it's going to be a talisman in the film. Like, you know it's coming. You know it's going to happen because they're talking about it.
But I like that campy aspect of it, like
I
the shit
hate
that they
it
talk
because
about
it's not
gets
written well.
reincorporated.
It's written terribly.
I feel like some of the problem is acting, because I'll give it to you. Like
Zoe Bell is
not
fucking
good.
atrocious.
I mean,
And
she's a good stunt
You know who would have been
woman,
great
but-
in that role? Fucking
Right.
Uma Thurman.
Right,
A real
correct.
actress, not just some stunt double who he's going to be able to essentially physically assault by throwing her on top of a car because she's willing to do it.
Right.
Now, it's cool that all the stunts in this film are real and all, but he made this film because somebody else wouldn't do a stunt.
Right.
That's the general understanding.
Zoe
Not
Bell,
be-
I still love you, baby.
I'm indifferent. You're a
I
great
like
stunt.
her.
You're a great stunt performer, but you're a terrible actress. I'm sorry, it's true. You're not believable in any scene at all.
I mean, she's basically playing herself.
And she's still bad at it. I mean, come on. You don't have to give me anything else other than that.
No,
But
I'll
know,
give you that Zoe Bell is not much of an
and
actress.
that's our main character.
But I don't think it's a dialogue problem. I think it's more of an acting problem.
It's a both problem. It's a both problem because the other characters, as a result, like the other stunt driver, right? Like the other chick. I don't remember her name because, quite frankly, I'm having difficulty remembering anybody's name other than Butterfly and Zoe, and Stuntman Mike. But when she speaks, she has oh hell no, blah blah blah, bob in her head attitude, and that's her whole fucking character. Can we get more than just she's sassy and drives stunts as a character? That's all we get. That is her fucking character.
I don't know. I feel like I get
no-
more from her than that.
What are her other personality traits?
Well, their friendship that they have, like,
The friendship they have is completely driven on adrenaline, which is cool. But the way they
I don't think
communicate,
that's true. I mean, I think they do care for each other, like, and I think that she cares for her other friends. She's a boyfriend.
what gives you that idea?
Well,
what
she
does
doesn't
she
care for the
mean?
cheerleader bitch, but she does care for Rosario Dawson's
Not
character.
really. She calls her annoying the whole time. When she comes along on the trip, she's a bitch to her.
Yeah, but she's just kind of a bitch.
That's her personality. That's my point.
That's some people's personalities.
But it's not, and you know that. Because every other horrible character, like, not horrible, like every other aggro character in any other Quentin Tarantino film, we understand. Right down to, like, Mr. Blonde, we get it. You get it. He's an asshole, but you get him. I don't understand her motivations, really. Other than the baseline of, we're adrenaline junkies, let's go do some adrenaline shit, and I'm going to yell at my friends for being concerned.
I mean,
What a bitch.
I mean, I feel like all the characters in this movie are a little less dimensional.
Then
but
that's
I
a
also
problem
feel
for
like
me.
that's
why it's not as good as his other
But
films.
I also feel like that's like a genre thing.
That's my point. He's bogged down by this genre. He didn't elevate it. He stayed within the rules of this genre. He didn't add anything new to it. It's exactly what it is. It's pretty good for what it is, but it's not as good as his other films.
I feel like there are moments where the genre is elevated though, like
Not
that,
at
like
all.
the ending scenes. I think that like just the technical aspects elevate it.
Well, I mean, those Grindhouse films, a lot of times they did do their own stunts because they were indie
Well,
as
yeah,
fuck.
I know, but like I just think that like the way that the film is crafted on like a technical level, the shots, the atmosphere. I think that he elevates
it's all
in
meant
that way.
to look cheap. I mean, that's his goal. He's making it look like a Grindhouse film. So
But
as a result, it's not technically that great looking, other than if you like the aesthetic of a Grindhouse film. If you like grain on the screen, that's cool. It's a cool aesthetic choice. But in no way is this like brilliant cinematography. Is this brilliant shooting? The action scenes were really the most competently directed parts of the film. And that's why they showed it in all the fucking trailers, because how the hell else are you going to market this film when half the time they're standing around squawking bad dialogue at each other?
I mean, I think that this is a well-crafted film, and I think it does do something to the genre.
I don't think it elevates it at all.
I feel like it does. I feel like the end of this film.
There's tons of women empowerment in Grindhouse.
I mean, I would agree, but I think that I don't know. I think that the way, I don't know how else to say it, but on the technical level.
What technically about it specifically?
I think that the editing for this movie is really cool. I really like.
I think the editing is meant to look the way that it does because it's supposed to be Grindhouse. There's no, it's like he watched it. You know, how Kill Bill is so very much like a Bruce Lee film and another film, but there's an elevation to it. There's something he added that's Tarantino-esque. The first part of this film is nearly fucking void of Tarantino. I barely get Tarantino out of the first part of this film. And
I feel like at the very least, the stuntman Mike character.
The stuntman Mike character is intriguing, but I would argue not necessarily Tarantino until the second half. Then he's literally Tarantino by licking people's feet and shit. But my point being is, stuntman Mike was the interesting character because the whole scene was crafted around his intrigue and his mystery. But no other characters fucking mattered at all or were interesting. I mean, there's literally a scene where Butterfly's out on the porch with this guy, and he's crying and whining, wanting to make out with her, and then they go to the car and make out for a couple of minutes, and it's a long, dragging scene. It feels too long for what it is, and it is ultimately pointless. Because we already know that she's into doing things with this guy, but doesn't really like him from an earlier scene, and what it feels like is padding, and that's because it's not originally in the Grindhouse version, which is shorter. He wanted to pad out the film, so he added this scene. Same thing with the striptease scene, which is incredibly uncomfortable and says a lot of negative things about people. The whole stripping scene, as great and as well as it's shot, it has a lot of horrible connotations within it and its meaning. Basically that women, when put on the spot, should feel pressure to do something they don't want to do.
Right,
just because. And think about the emphasis he put on that scene as far as it was shot. Think about how much intricacy went into that specific scene that he edited along. In comparison to other scenes later in the film that could have definitely used...
I will say that I like the Grindhouse cut of this movie better.
Yeah, the Grindhouse cut of this movie shorter, which already makes it better for me. And then also, I spend less time with the first group of characters because the first group of characters are bologna and peanut butter sandwiches. They're disgusting. They're awful.
I mean, I think that this movie, I think that it does a lot well. I mean, I think that it's
not incompetent. I hate when people say that about Grindhouse movies. It's not incompetent. But it's not as good as the rest of his films, and that's what I'm here to say. I'm not here to say it's a bad movie. I'm literally not. I like the movie. I bought the movie. I wouldn't have it if I didn't like it. Even though it came in the box set, I would have bought it individually anyway.
I mean, I would say, by no means is this my favorite Quentin Tarantino movie, but also by no means is it my least favorite.
I mean, at one point you did say this was your favorite, or at least one of your favorites. That's something that you had said to me before.
Yeah, but I wouldn't call it my top favorite, but I would say that I like it a lot.
I think you might be having an evolution on this, because when we first talked about it, you said it might be your favorite. I remember that very distinctly. You said it might be your favorite. I'm not trying to call you out or anything. I'm just saying, I think we've all evolved on this. When I was watching it back in 2007 at the Grindhouse cinemas, I thought this was not only the best Tarantino movie, I thought this was the best fucking movie ever. But my palate has evolved, and I've seen from Tarantino films alone that there's better things to expect out of a revision or a revisiting of an exploitative concept. Like Dolomite Is My Name is a blaxploitation film, but it's elevated. It's got Eddie Murphy. It's well acted. It's well performed. It's still what it is, but they elevated it. This is not an elevation. This is a recapturing of a time period that he does brilliantly. It feels like it's from the 70s. I swear to God, if somebody told me this was from the 70s and I wasn't familiar with the actors and actresses, I'd believe them.
Yeah. Except for when they text on their little cell phones.
Yeah, that's true. But especially if you took those moments out and you gave me this film and I didn't know who they were, I mean, you would be startled to find out it's from a different time.
Yeah.
But that's the problem, is that's what he did. He made a movie from the past and he added nothing to elevate it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I don't know, I really like this movie for its kind of adherence to Grindhouse genre conventions. But I also do feel like he, not so much in the first half, but in the second half, he is able to get away from them. And I think we disagree on that, because I think that this movie does add something to the genre that he's playing with.
I think that the second half of this movie feels different than the first half. And I think the second half of this movie is way better. But I know what happened with the second half of the movie. Tarantino went from making a grindhouse movie to trying to make a hybrid. And what he ended up doing was making a grindhouse movie. Instead of a Tarantino movie pretending to be grindhouse, he made a grindhouse movie pretending to be Tarantino, pretending to be smarter than it is, pretending to have better dialogue than it has, pretending to have better characters than there were. That's how I feel about it. Whereas the first half of the film is emptiness. And that's why, in some ways, I feel like Planet Terror, not to like review Planet Terror entirely, but I think that's why it's more, like it's actually a little bit more realistic, not realistic, but a bit more faithful, because it doesn't add anything to it, but it also never even fucking attempts that. Whereas I think Tarantino, towards the second half of this movie, is like, all right, y'all, it's a Tarantino piece now. But it wasn't. It didn't elevate anything. It wasn't elevated at all. Sorry. I went on for so long.
No, you're good.
I was listening.
I don't know. I just feel like this movie does manage to elevate the genre. And
I think this boils down to a matter of opinion.
Yeah,
too.
that's what I was gonna say, and I think we just disagree on that. But I definitely there are definitely things I do not like about this movie, and I think that there are parts of this movie that I find really gross and really icky. Which is why again, like, I like the Grindhouse cut better, and I like these two movies with each other.
Yeah, they work together.
I like them very well in that format.
And here's the other thing too: if this movie if Tarantino would have just decided, all right, I'm gonna let because in the first half he's really bogged down by the idea of a grindhouse movie. He sticks to the conventions so faithfully. If that would have been his overall message, it would have still been the worst Tarantino movie to me, but it would have felt a lot more complete and coherent. I feel like the moment he tried to subject something into there, especially like his real perverse scenes.
Yeah, like there's a few scenes that are like overly symbolic and icky when you think about it.
And for
like,
me,
like the car when she's like laying on it with her legs open, and like he like drives the car like fucking
and, like,
into her
feet.
legs, and like her feet. Ugh.
And it just feels like he made an incredibly gross and personal film and disguised it as a grindhouse movie at some points.
Yeah.
But never elevated that genre.
I can totally see that. I still felt something during that last scene and was like kind of vindicated, but
that's a great scene.
It's a great last scene for sure.
It is.
It's it's probably the best directed part of the movie.
Yeah, and it does that's
give
you
what takes the film to
vindication.
that next level for me.
But for me, it needs better than just a good ending because like let's say the movie did subvert my expectations and killed these characters. Would anybody even care about this film? And the thing is one determinative small term factor should not.
I think so.
It shouldn't elevate the film so heavily to not that good to good. I think it elevates the not that good to okay.
I think the way Stuntman Mike kills people is interesting and unique enough to where the film is elevated just on that standard.
Yeah, I mean, I really like the Stuntman Mike character. I would agree with you on that as well.
And the car, like the whole death-proof machine, is unique and inventive enough.
It's based off of a different Grindhouse film where a guy drives a car that he can't die in, but that's okay.
Oh.
It's not. It's actually by definition not original, which is okay.
Yeah, I just think
there's not a lot of original ideas out there anymore.
Yeah,
anyway.
exactly.
Right.
And it's not one that's beaten down and done a million times.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that like that being the sort of crux of it does kind of like give it something unique about it.
Yeah.
I just think that in comparison to other films, it's a pretty good film. But when we're comparing it to a filmography of Quentin Tarantino, it falls the least interesting. I can't think of a film that he's made that is worse than this.
I think this movie...
That's not to say that it's bad. I want to emphasize that because I feel like people think I hate this.
This movie also comes off and feels more like a popcorn movie than a lot of Quentin Tarantino's movies feel.
Right, it does.
Like, you could show this to somebody, and like, you don't have to pay as much attention to this as you do like Pulp Fiction or something that he writes other stuff.
It's not complex enough.
I know, exactly. That's why I'm saying
that's a demerit for me.
I think it's fun for what it is. I think if you can
that's what I'm saying too.
Exactly. I liked it a lot actually, and I'm definitely gonna rate it high. And I think it ranks high in my Quentin Tarantino movies. But it almost just, I don't know. I kind of wonder what we would think about this movie if it was directed by somebody else.
I mean, that's
we would think it was okay, and we think it was pretty fun.
Yeah.
I feel like everything about it. This movie ultimately comes out as a positive. I know, but it's just not as good as his other work.
It's hard knowing, like, with the speculation that's out there on Quentin Tarantino and stuff. It's hard to separate the art from the artist on this one.
Right.
Set in on feet.
Like,
yeah.
Like, I get that because, like, there's a lot of moments where, like, there's icky feet things. And so, like, maybe if it was, like, directed, this was, like, the same work, but it was directed by someone who was, like, not Quentin and not had already had this kind of track record in his filmography.
And, like, take yourself out of this fucking movie. He's god awful.
For the love of God.
And no offense to Zoe Bell. She's badass as fuck. We all know that. I would never try to fist fight her.
But she's not an actress.
But she's not an actress.
She's a stunt double.
And that's fine. But don't make the whole character, like the whole movie about.
And the whole.
Yeah.
And it's kind of unfair because they slided her up next to Rosario Dawson. So the whole time she's trading scenes with Rosario Dawson, one of, like, the best actresses working. Like, she's incredible. She's
I love
great. Her. She elevated Clerks 2 for fuck's sake. She's a great actress. But when you put her next to Zoe Bell, like, it makes Zoe look even fucking shittier.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's the main character. Like, that's our main character.
And, like, I feel like I came into this being like, I love this movie. There's nothing, not that there's nothing wrong with her. There was definitely things wrong, like them leaving her to be sexually assaulted by this man. And that being like a huge joke. I did not like that. I got, like, actually very upset about this. I think I had to stop. I had
or how
Madison,
they let
like
that girl they didn't like go home with stuntman Mike, even though he was also clearly a sexual predator because she was drunk.
Yes,
that was really cool too that they did that.
I was also gonna bring that up, but yeah, like, but I mean, like
don't treat your friends like this.
Well, they're not. That's not their friend, but the other one is the friend.
I know, but don't.
I wasn't talking to the microphone. My bad.
Don't treat anybody like this. I didn't realize a lot of the backstory, especially with, like, the emphasis on stunts and stunt doubles.
Well, the stunts, and the thing is, the stunts in this movie are fucking dope. That's the
they
other
are.
thing. They are really dope. That's what is so great about the movie. If this movie was attached to, like, a real movie, you know, like, not to say this isn't real, but, like, attached to, like, one of his higher art films and then had these stunt scenes, that would be, like, beyond elevation. That would be, like, a masterclass because these stunt scenes are incredible.
Yeah.
But the idea, although it's never been confirmed, is that he basically wanted to hate fuck Uma Thurman with this movie, which is really just unsettling. I get they're cool now, but that's a weird concept.
Yeah. And I mean, I think a good way to think about this movie is, like, I don't know, you've probably read this, but, like, the idea that some of Quentin Tarantino's movies are, like, because he has, like, a whole, like, he almost has, like, a whole universe, right? And so, like, some of his movies are movies that characters in his other movies would be watching. Like, do you know what I mean? So, like, this film and, like, Kill Bill are movies that, like, characters in Pulp Fiction would go to the cinema and see.
Yeah,
I mean, and there's that idea that he does that. And so, like, I think that's also a good lens to look at this movie through.
I don't agree, though. You have to have this film stand on its own.
Well, no, I know. But, like, I also think that, like, that helps to understand what he's doing with this movie. But I don't think that but it certainly doesn't right the wrongs that this movie has.
And I think that considering his level of filmmaking, I just want to say that I don't know if it's that he let the genre restrict him from making a better movie or that he simply just wanted to make a bad movie, but the end result's the same. It's not as good as his other movies, even if that's what he intended on.
And, like, it's been, like, a week maybe since we watched this movie or two. And so, like, when you started to point out things, I was like, oh, shit, you're right. Oh.
I mean,
I still love this movie. I had a great time watching it.
I like it, too.
Yeah.
I literally like it, too. For me being so negative, I actually really like the movie. I just don't think it's as good.
What was I going to say? I lost it. Never mind.
But let me talk about the one thing that I super love about this movie.
Yeah.
And it's the sound mixing of this movie.
Yeah.
This movie sounds so fucking good. That's where I get a little frustrated because he was able to do the sound mixing of the film where it was like grindhousey, and that was an element that elevated because I think he did better sound mixing than grindhouse movies do. So when he removed that restriction of making it sound like shit the whole time, he elevated the film, thus proving he didn't have to stay in the box, but he did. Like outwardly, like so, especially in the first act, which is like a fucking hour, we are watching an old movie where it could have been at least a little more interesting. I could have given a fuck about the people who died, but I didn't. Not a single one who died in the first act. Not a single character did I give a fuck.
And I remember what I was gonna say now. Like Quentin says that this is his worst movie.
Yeah, well, that I think he's right, and I still don't think it's a bad movie.
But he says that he would. Like, if you asked him, he would say that this is the worst movie he made. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that I agree with him on that, but actually I don't agree with him on that. I know what I think the worst movie he's made is.
I think people are really into the aesthetic, and they like to forgive a lot. And if you're somebody who's into that, I'm not judging. I was going
to say, and I am a person who will, not only in this movie and Tarantino movies, but in other movies, I will forgive a lot for an aesthetic that I like.
And it is a really, especially for the time which was made, was a unique aesthetic. But for me, I don't want to give it it's good for what the aesthetic is, because Planet Terror is a movie that's attached that, in my opinion, did it better. I feel that way. Even though I know that Planet Terror, like, as a whole is a worse written film, it's a better performed and created movie because it's far more entertaining and far more consistent tonally. But yeah, I think I've talked this to death. I feel like I've given a dissertation.
I don't think I have anything else to say.
I think my opinion has been passed as well as everybody else's pretty effectively.
And you swayed me. I mean, like, you usually sway me.
Aww.
I'm gonna be honest, like, because I'm not coming in it with like a history of like looking at film critically. Like, if this was like a short story like podcast, which would be really bizarre, but like
we're reviewing short stories reread that they're not reading,
right? In this one, Kurt Vonnegut. No, I'm kidding. But like, maybe if it was like more on a like a literary term, because that's where like my expertise lives. And like if maybe if it was like about writing or something, like I would come in here and be like, yes, I know all the things, but I come in here and I'm like, I have these pretty mediocre thoughts on movies, and sometimes I
never mediocre. They're not baby.
Just because
none of us are.
Listen, I get that I have like a really intense opinion on this movie. But that doesn't mean people who disagree with me are wrong, or that they're even like a lesser opinion or anything because it's a shorter or more precise idea. I just have a lot of thoughts on this film because I'm a big film fan. But if you disagree with me, that's cool. You could be just as big a film fan and disagree with everything I'm saying.
I have a lot of thoughts on this too. Yeah. But then we have very different thoughts, but I have a lot of them.
It all goes with your personal perspective. The reason why it's art is that it's totally subjective in that regard. Like, there's some movies that are objectively bad, but every movie has a subjective element to them. And as far as this movie goes, it has to do with the quality of the film. I mean, this movie's just so polarizing in the way that it was created. You could love it or hate it. Yeah. I think it's kind of bad for a Tarantino movie, but I'm of the camp that thinks it's a good movie on its own. Especially like if the Grindhouse version existed by itself, which is way more concise and shorter, I'd prefer it.
Yeah, I think he was like right to chop this movie up when he did it.
The thing is too is like he always had the intention of putting the scenes back though, and that's what's so upsetting is that he views the full cut as the better cut, which is upsetting to me. Because it's really fucking not. It's the things that he adds does nothing but demerit the film.
Yeah.
Like through and through. The longer beginning, the Jungle Jane racist Rose McGowan back and forthness, and the whole like leaving the friend behind to get sexually assaulted. These are all things that were added, and they didn't need to be. Like, we didn't need to know why they were able to leave with the car. Like, we didn't need that shit. It was
like we could just think that she's like just talking to him about cars or just chilling. I don't know.
The scene goes, I'll convince him. Don't worry about that. And then she comes back. She's like, let's go. That's all it is.
Really?
You can assume anything you want.
Right.
Like, I wouldn't even have thought about the other friend.
Right? Exactly.
Honestly.
Exactly. You
and
just
like,
think, maybe they dropped this bitch off. Because they never go pick her back up.
Right.
Not in the film anyway. So why are we even getting that? What's the point? Just to make an uncomfortable joke, I guess?
Like, haha, sexual assault, funny, 2 times.
This guy's gonna rape her, and when he finds out that they destroyed his car, they're never coming back for her.
Like, who's to say what he'll do?
Yeah, like,
that's really funny.
So funny.
Like, fuck you, Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah, and that's my thing. Like even though I like this movie and I'm a defender of this movie,
You definitely are a defender of this movie.
and I will admit,
Which
it, like,
is fine.
I really like the movie, but there are just things about it that I just don't like, and I'm like, why is that in there?
But
that's so true for so many Quentin Tarantino movies.
But you have to admit the evolution you've had on this topic.
I think that like over the years, like my opinions on Death Proof have changed. Also, I really like the Grindhouse cut better. So
The
there's
Grindhouse
that
cut
as
is
well.
notably better. The Planet Terror grind. If we were reviewing this as Grindhouse, I honestly feel like I'd be like, everything was really good in the first half. Things were okay in the second half. Like, it'd be a much simpler review because it's not so attached to Quinn's name at that point. It's a part of a larger project. But when it's just Death Proof and he makes it his own feature, he cuts in his own scenes and releases it on its own, he's then stamping that this is his official film. And I'm going to view it as such. I'm going to view it as a Tarantino piece, and I'm going to compare it to the other ones because that's what you do as a film critic. You critically look at what he's added to the genre and what he's elevated and what he hasn't. And this is my opinion. This is his lowest feature. That's just my opinion. Anyway, Franny, what do you want to rate it?
I want to give it an 8. I really like this movie. I'll defend this movie in a lot of regards. I do feel like this movie tries to force your perspective to see it as like a feminist take on something, and it's really not. It's just Quentin being kind of gross. But that doesn't change the fact that I like this movie a lot.
I love gross. You wanted to slam Adam Sandler
Honestly,
and Uncut Gems. You love gross.
I mean, yeah,
I just
Like,
think
she
would
did.
Fran slam Quentin Tarantino? Yes or no?
Oh, no. But I just think some of the gore in this movie, like the scenes where you watch somebody like get fucking torn up by this car, is so insane and so well done.
I'm gonna give it I'm gonna say 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
I liked it. There are definite issues. You guys have definitely talked me down from a higher rating. Not talked me down, but like I've heard what you had to say.
You
Like, I
get
came in
things you
with a-
didn't
yeah.
see before.
Yeah, I came in with a much higher rating, and like after talking with you guys, it's been about a week or so since I've seen it. I'm like, oh, I forgot about that. So, yeah, that's my rating.
I don't remember. Were we doing halves?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
do
we do
halves, but
halves.
that's all you can go. You can't go to like a 0.8. It's got to be a half.
Okay, I give it an 8.5.
Okay. I give it a 6.
Okay, so what does that add up to? Hold on. Let's see what our average is.
Okay.
Hold on just a second. We're pulling up. One day I'll just remember to do this as we're doing it, and then we won't have to go through this. Okay. Okay, so Franny?
I was almost going to give it a 5, but I really do like that ending. I've come around to really enjoying that
I
ending.
did an
Franny
8.
said an 8. I said an 8.5. Bridget said
7.
7. Logan said 6. Equals that divided by 4. We rate this movie a 7.4. Or if we're being very precise, a 7.375. So
We'll call it 7.4.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I mean,
good.
that seems like about right.
That's
like,
probably
for
yeah.
that.
that's probably its IMDb score, honestly.
Let's Google
Yeah.
that too. Let's see what Death Proof is rated on IMDb.
It can't be any lower than a 7. There's no way. It's a Tarantino film. He
Right.
could fart into a wet paper bag for an hour and people would be like, that's a 7.8, baby.
Yeah.
Let's see. Hold on. I'm going to the IMDb.
I'll be shocked if it's lower than. Now I'm actually curious what it is.
On IMDb, it's a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, it's about what we said it would be.
So there
Yeah.
it is. So what are we doing next time?
I believe it's going to be. Well, we're gonna. Oh, should we announce the other thing?
Hold on. Wait. When is this coming out? This is coming out.
The
You're listening to
11th.
this on the 11th? Should we?
I mean, we're probably gonna do it, right?
I mean, I think we're definitely going to do it.
Okay, so Friday we're actually having a video come out.
What? A Friday release?
On Friday
Not
the-
on my Crosscut Cinema podcast.
On Friday the 13th, we're gonna review the 2009 Platinum Dunes Michael Bay remake of Friday the 13th, which a lot of people actually really fucking love. So we're gonna review that for Friday the 13th.
Yeah, we're not done being spooky.
Yeah. Well, Death Proof is kind of a horror movie in its
It
own
is a
right.
little
It
bit.
is. I was talking about that to
And then the movie
Madison.
that we did last week is horrifying. Or no, not last week, the week prior.
What did we do last week?
You talking about-
Wait,
The American Murder
Well, that's
one.
horrifying in a totally different aspect.
that's like genuinely.
That's genuine horror.
Hopefully that's well received. We haven't seen how that's gonna go. I think
Yeah.
it was really good. I think it was
Yeah,
really, really good.
I really like that episode. I stand by it no matter
yeah.
what people say.
No one said anything yet. They could
Are we-
love it.
Well,
We don't
no
even
matter
know.
what people potentially say.
Are we?
I don't know. I just know
mention,
somebody told us not to do it after it's already been done.
Yeah.
That happens. It's whatever.
So yeah. So next week.
And then next week it'll be Thankskilling.
No,
and
not next week. The week after next.
No,
week.
that's next week.
That's next week, dude.
No.
You're just
Yeah,
yes.
because we did the Friday. We talked about the Friday release, and now next week.
Oh shit! You're right.
I think where we fucked up is this isn't actually November 11th. This is November 18th. Friday the 13th video already happened.
Yeah.
No, it didn't.
Yes, it did.
No.
Oh, we're fucking idiots.
Yeah.
So if you want to go see that Friday the 13th,
Franny was like, let's
bop
not say
down.
what we're doing next week on the end of the last podcast.
See, that's why I was confused.
I didn't say not next week. I said not. I thought you were gonna go say in advance, like say past that.
But you didn't even let us say the Friday the 13th
What?
one.
I didn't.
What?
No.
What?
Well,
Oh shit!
We'll put it in the description. I thought.
God, we
thought,
acted like we were really like excitingly teasing something
That
that,
already
had
happened.
already previously happened.
Oh boy.
Oh, God.
I genuinely
This
thought
is
you were
why you
about
record
to.
your shit the night before.
We'll do a community post. We'll do a community post to talk about Friday the 13th when it comes out.
We're fucking
And
stupid.
all of you guys get to listen to us babble on about something that's already happened.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
At least we realized it. People are probably
This
gonna
is the
click off like
premium.
these fucking
These
idiots.
dumbasses. No,
This is
next
the premium content y'all
next
come
week-
up to us
For
for.
real.
next week is Thankskilling in planes, trains, and automobiles.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes,
Two classic Thanksgiving tales.
indeed. Oh yeah.
All
Is
right,
that it,
guys.
guys?
That's it for me.
That's it.
If you want to check out our Twitter,
Oh yeah, our Twitter. I forgot.
Yeah.
it's Crosscut Cinema.
Yes.
And you can, if you tweet at us and follow us, we will give you a shout out.
Also,
Yes.
I'm gonna link in the description me and Franny's second podcast we started. If you guys want to
Hey.
check that out, it's called the
Hey.
Pilot Podcast.
It's so much fun to listen to.
Yeah,
Like,
isn't it? It's like I'm sure for you guys it's a nice relief because like we just get to listen to this one. We don't have to
right,
worry about
it is.
No work.
I'm holding off on the Scream episode. Yeah, I listened to a little bit because I've seen the first episode of like the first
Yeah.
like two.
We
like, the first
timestamp things
season.
very effectively, so you will
Yeah.
not get spoiled on
Yeah.
stuff.
But I very much enjoyed the first Scream.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
We love to hear it.
I'm gonna watch the second Scream.
Yeah,
and
the
come
point of
back
this
to you.
video, the last video we did was Friends and Boy Meets World's Halloween specials. That was at the time of this recording. That's the last video we
Yes.
did. It's
I haven't
very
had a chance to
funny.
watch it yet, but
I haven't
will be
either,
soon.
but I will.
It's super funny.
I'm not gonna take the time to watch the episodes. I'm just listening to you.
That
I
makes
mean, I've
sense.
definitely seen the episodes, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Bridget doesn't like Friends.
It's bad.
I
Anyway,
have trauma.
anyway, see you later, guys.
And
Bye.
we won't elaborate.
Oh, no! No, no, no!